So today's video is Earthworm Jim on the Sega Genesis. Even saying Earthworm Jim sounds insane. Who comes up with this stuff? Okay, well that's a loaded question. I know exactly who came up with it. But okay, hear me out. If you're doing some menial shit like your day job, I have a much better use of your time. Watch the video. Unless you've lived under a rock during your time as a gamer, well, okay, maybe you did, and that's okay. I'm not here to judge. The point is, pretty much everyone has heard of Earthworm Jim, the groovy annelid hero with a southern twang, got his start in 1994 on the Sega Genesis in the form of a rather bizarre run-and-gun platform game developed by Shiny Entertainment. So as the name implies, Jim is an earthworm, who would have guessed, who was living out his meager, wormy life until a robotic supersuit screaming from the heavens landed on him. Entering the suit, he is imbued with intelligence. It's never entirely explained how that works, but perhaps some kind of cosmic radiation is to blame. Regardless, he is able to operate the suit with his worm body acting as the head, and the suit acting as the body. Now, by comparison to say an Italian plumber or a supercharged hedgehog, a superpowered earthworm is a pretty absurd gaming mascot, but Jim and the insanity of his world is all by design. You see, prior to Earthworm Jim, developer Dave Perry's time at Virgin Games meant he was restricted to making licensed titles, forcing him and his team to conform to preset limitations. When Shiny Entertainment was created, Perry and co were free to do whatever they wanted. Interestingly enough, and rather ironically, in the beginning the fledgling company had no clue what to make. But Playmates Toys had a gaming division called Playmates Interactive, and they aided Shiny Entertainment in finding licenses. Unlike Playmates' previous successful toy franchise TMNT, and inspired by the success of Sonic the Hedgehog, they wanted to create a video game first, which was quite an unusual approach at the time. Eventually, Shiny Entertainment settled on creating an original game. Impressed with former DreamWorks animator Doug TenNapel's demonstration of his skill, a sketch he did would later become Earthworm Jim. Thereafter, Shiny Entertainment bought the rights to Earthworm Jim from TenNaple and started developing the game. TenNaple was responsible for the game design, formulating level ideas, and voicing Jim's character, while Perry and the other programmers created other characters and game mechanics.
Well, for this game, we created like a whole world that's inhabited by all these different characters, and we created far more information than you would really need to create a game. Just so that we all have a feeling of like what the worlds are like and what the characters would do in certain situations. And I think by creating more information than you need, the world becomes more believable each little bit that you show it.
As animators, our first and number one priority is to get the highest quality of animation ever seen in a video game.
The thing we do differently than a lot of other video game companies is we do all the animation on paper instead of creating the animation in the computer. We do it traditionally on paper first, and then we have a process called Animotion, in which we take that paper animation and convert it into the digital data that the game systems can use.
With the zaniness of it all in mind, Earthworm Jim was actually developed as a satire of other platform games of the time, with characters like Princess What's-Her-Name poking fun at the numerous throwaway princess characters that always needed saving. This is funnier still when you realize that Princess What's-Her-Name is actually a badass warrior princess who don't need no man or worm to save her. Among the numerous enemies all trying to get at Jim's supersuit, the princess's twin sister, the evil queen, pulsating, bloated, festering, sweaty, pus-filled, malformed slug for a butts, is one of them. Yes, that is actually her full name. Dear God. Man, I think the person who came up with that name must have been in the process of having some kind of catastrophic constipation and was probably screaming random words out as they were shitting themselves to death. That's the only thing that makes sense here. Along with other deeply disturbing villains like Evil the Cat, Bob the Killer Goldfish, Major Mucus, and persistent villain Psychro, who, as it so happens, is actually responsible for Jim's transformation after accidentally dropping the supersuit on Jim in the first place, while transporting it to Queen Slug for a bit. Psychro is often seen as Jim's arch nemesis, as crows are the enemies of all earthworms after all. Most levels culminate in a boss battle with one of the aforementioned villains, and in between most of these levels there's a racing section called Andy Asteroids. The Andy Asteroids levels are a bit of a mixed bag. At times you'll cruise through them unabated, but there will also be moments where you'll crash into a single asteroid, triggering a series of frustrating and seemingly unavoidable follow-up collisions that'll make you want to pull out your fucking hair. The variety of the enemies is echoed by the levels too. At times you'll be sending cows into the stratosphere, or bungee jumping against a sentient snot pile, and if you're not battling lawyers in a hellscape ruled by a cat named Evil, then you're potting around in a small submarine where every little bump and scrape could spell certain doom. Yep, it's as fantastic as it sounds. So they say a hero's mettle can be determined by the strength of his enemies, or something like that. Point is, Jim has enemies in spades, but luckily one of his super suit's accessories is a plasma blaster. It's a pretty effective dispatcher of evil, however the energy clips deplete faster than spiked punch at a homecoming dance, so be sure to collect every clip in sight. At times you can also collect a single shot mega plasma round, so use it wisely, I seldom do. Jim can also slow his descent when jumping or falling by using his own head like a propeller, and his suit can also use his body as a whip and a lasso. Groovy. If you're to be successful in your princess saving endeavors, then you're going to need to have your wits about you. Of course, a handy whip and plasma blaster help too, and while Earthworm Jim may be out there in terms of its style and concept, it's certainly no slouch in the gameplay and level design department. The large open-ended levels are challenging and offer danger at every turn, and if it's not some rabid dog, crow, or creature trying to kill you, then it'll be one of the numerous environmental hazards that'll do you in. And if that wasn't bad enough, some of the bosses like Major Mucus and Doc Duodenum will make you dish out enough expletives to make Tarantino and Scorsese blush. You know, in all the boss battles in my years of gaming, Major Mucus must rank right up there on the top 10 most irritating and annoying bosses. The advantage of having a film animator like Doug TenNapel on board meant that the character designs and animations looked as if they'd been lifted from a cartoon, brimming with personality and nuance. Combined with numerous spectacular backdrops, Earthworm Jim certainly was a looker, setting it above and beyond many competing run-and-gun platformers during the mid-90s. The addition of Jim's various soundbites such as Groovy and Whoa Nelly, coupled with a thumping soundtrack, injected even further character into the game, a true asset for the Sega Genesis library. Earthworm Jim was first and foremost a Sega game, and would be later ported to various other platforms such as the Super Nintendo. Despite having altered graphics, alternative backgrounds, and special effects, side by side the Genesis version looks, sounds, and handles better than the SNES version, and it's worth noting that the Nintendo version lacked some of the sound effects as well as the intestinal distress level of its Sega counterpart. Well, Earthworm Jim certainly is still good today, and it's not hard to see why Shiny Entertainment were so highly regarded in the gaming community. Even decades later, Earthworm Jim remains as groovy as ever. Well, that's it for this week. If you enjoyed the Earthworm Jim episode as much as I enjoyed making it, then please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It really does help. Until next time, keep playing retro.